What does that mean? What?
Well, what that means is, so I'm here at VMworld Explore Europe in Barcelona, and I came here. I arrived Monday at fuck if I know, lunch. Let's call it that. And I don't know. I like nonstop is an exaggeration, but since about Monday at, let's say, 5 p.m., I've been talking quote unquote nonstop. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
how old am I? I was born January 1st, 1977. I'm 45. Right? Can I get a quick numbers check
Yeah,
there?
can
Okay,
confirm.
thank you. So, I'm old enough that I've learned you can't just constantly drink like the British do, right? So
No.
that I don't have as one PR handler for a CEO I once talked to said the whiskey voice. It's just like I've just been talking a lot,
Yeah, like
right?
yeah, the
And
more the laryngitis voice just sort of
yeah,
just gets
yeah,
worn out.
like
Yeah, I get you.
because you're either giving your presentation, you're either talking with prospects or customers, or you're hanging out with your coworkers trying to solve all the problems, or
Right.
or
Yeah.
conversely complain about how everything's going, right? So yeah, I think about 3 days is about as long as you can go before you lose your voice,
I
and
like it.
so
I think
that's
that's true.
that's yeah.
I thought I had conference voice, but it was COVID.
Matt, before we start recording, give us your for everybody that's been asking, give us your update. How are you? Like, where are you at in the state of recovery? You're obviously on the podcast, but what else?
This is I've um hmm. So
Well, are you
left.
still testing positive? Maybe we should start there.
Yes,
Did
I am
you?
still testing
Oh
positive.
wow, so this been a bad case then. Like usually it's like a
Yeah,
week, right?
yeah. I this is Thursday for me, and I first tested positive Monday of last week. So 10 days, and I'm still testing positive,
Hmm.
strongly. Not like a faint line or anything. It's like, whoa, it's red, you know.
You're right.
So I'm still
It's like that when
masking.
it says like wait 15 minutes, but like as soon as the drop hits it, it goes red. You're like, this doesn't. This seems
Yeah, I was like,
bad.
maybe
That's
it'll change its mind.
like you don't need like when you really have it, you don't need to wait to 15 minutes. Like as soon as it hits, you're like, this looks bad. Ouch.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm still mostly isolating to my room. Yesterday I had to make a run to the hardware store, and but I, of course, I'm the conscientious guy who wears a mask everywhere before and after COVID. Law says I don't have to do anything, so how about that?
Ouch.
But
Ouch.
anyway, I went to the hardware store. I painted a door, and that tired me out, so I went to sleep. So I got like 9 hours of sleep last night.
I painted a door. It's like a little Tom Sawyer action right going there. Painted a
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
But today might be the day I buy a car. So I've been
Whoa.
putting it off buying online, and so I was like, fine, I'm gonna buy one online, and then one popped up in
Well,
the
maybe this
car
should be the
search.
opening topic. I feel like this is maybe you can give us. I don't know. Let's coach you get something else. Maybe this is the update we need to get.
I don't want to jinx it though. I don't want to jinx it. I gotta
Hmm.
go.
It's for
I
the
gotta.
show,
All
man.
right. All right.
Got-
All right.
All right. Listen. I don't want to like whatever you want to do. Coach's got another topic. It looks like
I,
so.
I
Let's
have
do
I
that.
have two potential opening topics.
All right.
So,
All right. Before we get on, are we good with this kind of rundown?
yeah, yeah.
I like a
That's
little
good.
VMware and state of OpenCloud. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I read this stuff. I gotta warn you guys, my brain is mush. So
Okay.
That's okay.
I
Matt Ray, I managed to do this episode, like record this every week, and my brain's always mush, so you'll be fine. Don't worry. I've demonstrated
yes.
over the years it's totally possible.
That's great. All right,
That's
Cote.
much better than me asking somebody, I've got COVID brain. Why are you acting like that?
All right, then Cote. Like I said, just one break at the beginning, and
All right.
then we're good to go. Whenever
Do
you're
y'all
ready,
do
man.
y'all do y'all have hard outs? What's the deal
I
on
don't have a
the
hard out, but not too much
Yeah,
longer
yeah, of
after the
course,
top
of
of the
course.
hour. Just
All right.
2 hours.
All right.
If we go 2 hours, I'm in trouble.
No, that's fine. All right. Okay, I'll go for this other one. Okay. All right. So I'm here in Barcelona for VMware Explore, and we can talk about that later. But I'm in Barcelona. I went to the hotel restaurant because I had to. It's actually pretty nice. Now I've got a Renaissance update that we can get into if y'all are interested. My ongoing quest to figure out what the fuck the deal is with Renaissance hotels. However, I went to the restaurant. because I had this recording and I figured I'll just go there. It was a great meal. I liked it. But it slowly filled up as I was there. And, I was eavesdropping here and there. And then there was a couple, which it was very sweet. I don't know who was the VMware person versus not, but they had brought their partner with them. And they were like totally hanging out, having a good time at their table. And someone had to go, I'm assuming, to use the toilet. And so like they had like a little cuddling and caressing before they left. And that person walked by. And that person was clearly wearing a lot of whatever you want to call it, perfume, cologne. And it smelled pretty nice, like as they walk by. And so I wanted to ask you two, what is, we can go as long as you want on this topic. What is the deal with wearing cologne for a male identifying person? Because now that's the question. Let me tell you my answer is I feel very like I always enjoy the smell, but I feel like if I wore cologne, I don't know, it would be negative somehow. So like I'm trying to like thread this thing of like, I mean, everyone likes good smells, and yet that's not a thing that like American men do or not. Like what goes through y'all's head when it's someone is like, well, okay, let me rephrase this more specifically. So Matt Ray, in Australia, what's the deal with cologne?
Well, so Australia's got oh man. There's this they've got that same youth culture that's into like, the Adidas and
Sure.
I don't know, young hooliganism, and they always smell like, is it Paco Rabanne? I don't know. There's some scent that you or
yeah,
like,
I think in the States the joke would be it's like Axe or whatever. At least that was
yes,
the joke
Axe
10
body
years
spray,
ago.
right?
Yeah,
You smell them and you're like, oh yeah, the kids are going clubbing, and you smell that and you're like,
sure.
so that's the only one that really stands out that I
But let's
smell a
dismiss
lot
that,
here.
right? Like because that's almost like I mean, it's the equivalent of like you've got a really tricked out Honda Accord. Like good job, right? But like let's move on to like, so what is like the $70,000-$100,000 Mercedes that you're gonna buy? How does
I
this
don't
like
know, man.
represent what's going on there? What's the mature like male smell?
You're asking the
situation?
wrong guy. I'm the one who's like, don't you have anything unscented? So
Right, but I
I'm
think
buying all the
that is the
unscented
answer.
stuff.
I think that is the answer,
Yeah.
Cote, to the thing. At least I don't know, I guess this probably does vary by region and local norms, but I feel like it is like cologne is sort of like a younger person's kind of thing. Like, the Axe body spray, like you just kind of joked about. It feels like I can't remember the name of it, but I think it wasn't Axe, but there was something else when we were kind of that age that everybody kind of wore. Teenagers, kind of maybe early college. But then there's this moment, I think, where people sort of just it's like, no, do you have the unscented brand? I'm just looking for the unscented brand, or something that has a very like just a tiny if you will, perfume or smell to it, right? That isn't so I think that's kind of the what the deal is like the older you get, the more you're trying to just be unscented and not smell unpleasant, but not bring anything new to the table. I believe that's the hierarchy.
Now let me add a bridge here. Now, long-term listeners will know that there was a period several years ago where I experimented with deodorant, and I was equally obsessed with like the unscented deodorant, right? Because my thinking was that like, maybe I should wear deodorant. I forget how old I was at the time. We've been doing this podcast for about 30 years, so it's hard to tell like when that was. But I didn't want to wear deodorant where someone would smell it and be like, "Oh, he's wearing deodorant." Right. So I wanted, to your point, both of y'all's point, I wanted the unscented thing. Now, I think Brandon, you have given the answer, which is that in the American mind, cologne and deodorant smell are the same thing. Right. It's almost like it's like and I guess like that's what I'm sort of realizing is that like maybe in the same way, someone pointed out to me that continental Europeans here at the conference will wear like a sports jacket and a suit, but they'll wear white sneakers or tennis shoes, right? And so like that's sort of like a style choice that you have, and I almost feel like a cologne is a part of your wardrobe. It's not just an antiperspirant that has a smell like a teenager, right? Which I think is like what is filtered down to our American mercantile CVS drugstore mindset is like this is some sort of tool that we're using to be less shitty to everyone around us. Whereas like I guess what I'm driving at is I feel like maybe you can use cologne as part of your like deal, like your
Yeah.
whole presentation, your thing, which I don't understand, but I'm very curious about as far as a fashion accessory that you
Well, you're
have.
talking to the wrong people. Unless Brandon's got something.
No, I was just gonna say, I think, I think where you're going, Cote, is sort of like what is, I guess it is ultimately your personal style. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
if you sort of wanna, it's like whatever. I think it is. It's like I would just kind of lump it in with personal grooming in general. Like, yeah, like how do you want to brush your hair? How do you want to,
Mm.
have a beard, trim a beard,
Uh-huh.
fashion, and then yeah, what kind of like do you want a heavy, I don't know, I'm trying to think, a heavy odor of perfume or cologne, or do you prefer something more,
Please
subtle?
no.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's probably like all of these things in the end, it's like, what would somebody say? Like a very secure person would be like, hey, if you feel good, that's all that matters. Right. Something like that. Some kind of advice like that. If you feel good, everybody feels good.
I think so. I think exactly. What we have identified is I need to explore the shift between two words, the shift between odor and presence. And I think somewhere in between that understanding is the mystery of should you wear cologne or not.
That's like monitoring and observability.
All right. Hey, that's a good.
Goddamn, Matt Ray, you're becoming like the king of the cold open closes. How did this happen?
That's a good stop. So I don't know. I'm just getting. Some people said like my video doesn't match my sound. I don't know. I'm trying to
Yeah,
figure
it's a
out.
little it's a little
It's
out of
like
sync,
2
but your
seconds.
sound's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, it sounds
Okay,
fine.
so
I'm just saying, like, turn off your video source and then turn it back on and see if that
oh,
helps.
okay. Yeah, let me okay, I did not understand that's a good idea, and I did not quite understand the. All right, let me see here. Try this. Try this.
What are you eating there, Matt Ray? Is that some ice from the GE Profile 2 ice
No,
maker?
it's some Vogel's granola. It's got pistachios and almonds. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay, I don't know.
Oh,
Any
perfect,
better?
Rainer.
Is it back?
Yes,
It's good.
it's
All right.
back.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
good.
looks good.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the production, and thank you to who was that? Jesse. Somebody on there. Somebody from the YouTube. Thanks for pointing that out as well. Appreciate it. So, okay, that was good. That was a good end. I can't remember what was the final thing you said. Oh, then that's like observability. Just remember
It was
where the edit, something like that. That's where the edit was on. Okay.
Yep. All right. Let me.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Cote.
So Brandon, since it's I'm not ready, but since it's your thing, why don't you pick up with the your conference standard questions?
Okay, like it. All right.
All right.
All right. Well, Cote, we had Matt on. He was our live correspondent from KubeCon, and I thought we'd do kind of something similar. You're over at VMware Explore EMEA. I think that's the
That's right.
official name. So,
I think well, hold on. Since I work, I think it's EU.
oh,
Not
EU.
EMEA.
Oh, I wrote. All
But
right, I'll
whatever.
correct my notes here. I
No
don't
problem.
know. I always say EMEA. So,
Yeah.
but I thought we started because I think a lot of times like these conferences like kind of run through, kind of get some of the same feel what's going on. So I just thought I always like to start with like the vibe check, like a vibe check. Like I asked Matt the other day, sort of like, one, like sort of what's the state of the health restrictions or lack of health restrictions, and then two, like the other thing I always like about these conferences is sort of like, are you in? Is it kind of like reunion time? We haven't seen each other in a long time, or are you now settled back into like this is just typical conference rotation? We've all seen each other, and we're back to just working. What's the vibe there?
All right. So I'll go in reverse order. So I think the overall vibe, whether it's colleagues or I don't know, non-colleagues, whatever that means that I meet, is it's that we haven't seen each other for a while, and it's good to get together. And I think there have been a lot of conversations and remarks about about how it's really nice to just like run into people and talk with them. And on that point, like, so I bring that up because I've been thinking over the past couple of days that I think the whole like remote versus in office conversation is missing an important qualifier, if you will. Like, I think that all of this kind of like ad hoc collaboration and business value creation that you should go to the office people are concerned about doesn't necessarily happen like when you're in the office. It happens when you like create this time where you don't have anything else going on and you just kind of like hang out with people while you're waiting for meetings to happen. Right. And so it's not like all like I've done a lot of, well, for whatever the fuck it is I do, a lot of work, so to speak, over the past couple of days with just like I'm hanging out somewhere with a colleague waiting for a meeting to happen, or after the meeting, we're just like getting a sandwich and you just talk with them, right? And so there's a lot of like thinking and like scheming and actual sort of like, again, work in my category of work that we've done. But it's not because we were like in an office together. It's because we were in this like void of nothing happening. And so therefore we filled it with time talking with each other, which if I were to say, well, everyone needs to return to the office because they need the void of nothing happening, right? That would not sound like a good HBR article by someone who wanted you to go back to work. But I think there is like a good, and you know, any sort of like creative artist person will basically say like, yeah, you need to like spend a lot of time doing nothing so you can work really hard doing something. And I think that's the kind of thing that you encounter at in-person conferences is like people are just like sitting there and you go talk with them and hang out and you do stuff, which I don't really think that doesn't happen when you're in the office, like in person
Yeah.
at all, right? Those are two totally separate
Yeah,
different things,
so I think you're
right?
kind of making some kind of argument for like the scarcity of it, right? The fact that it's somewhat special, it doesn't happen all the time, and then therefore when you kind of
Yeah,
get together, it's almost like the fact that you're together is a reason to like go out
totally.
and spend some more time and do things together. Whereas maybe if you're in an office every single day, you could go to lunch or you could grab a break, but you know because you're there every day, you never do it, right? It's kind of the thing like you
Right.
just
You're
like
like, oh God, there's that fucker coming down the hall. I'm gonna go the other
yeah, and you're
direction.
just like, I want to get out of here, and you're probably, you know, pulled by like some home commitments or outside work commitments, and you're like, I got to
Uh-huh.
get out of here. Whereas you're at the conference, like, no, I'm going to spend 3 days doing it. So I agree. I mean, I think that's part of like, you know, as you said at the beginning of this, like out of that whole thing, that whole discussion around like, you can still like, even if you're not in the office together, it doesn't mean you can't come together at some interval and then take
Mhm.
advantage of doing stuff at, you know what I mean? It's like almost be focused and then leave. So it is.
Right,
And I
right.
do think these conferences, I mean, all my experience with conferences, they're always playing multiple roles. There's the stated purposes to like go sell more to your customers, but at the same time, too, it's always like conference, great time to meet with partners, great time to meet with the team, great time to do some team bonding, great time.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also,
yeah.
too, it's like the boondoggle, we kind of make fun of it, but sometimes it's just nice to have fun, like be out with these people. You know, I guess that
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
falls under team bonding. It's like that's okay too. It's like the fact that you're having fun at the conference, like nobody has to apologize. It's like
Yeah,
that's kind of part
I
of it.
think I mean a few things. Like the corporate boondoggle is actually highly productive, right? Like if you
Yeah.
do a boondoggle right, it's great for productivity and
Well,
Vita and
it's
everything.
an offsite. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good
And
stuff.
then um yeah, I mean and it's also good that you raise like you brought up the whole ecosystem angle of like there's also partners and all these other people who come to a gigantic industry conference, right? And yeah, like you never really get the chance to talk with them at all. And so yeah, so that aspect as far as like being in person and re-meeting people, like it is I don't know, it's almost an excuse to do good work.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of like what successful big company bureaucracy is about is like intentionally coming up with that excuse to like do something, right? And so you get that with the conference. So your second thing is as far as like the COVID stuff, I was talking with one of my friends who you know, from Austin who's here. And like, yeah, I don't think Europe remembers that COVID happened.
Are
I
you?
think
Okay. So
maybe that's
moved
totally
on.
out of their
Mhm.
mind. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know
It'll
I've
be
said this
back.
joke. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know I've said this joke on the podcast before or here before, but like, you know, if you see someone in Europe wearing a mask, you know they're an American. That's kind of like
Wow.
that's
You
my
know they're
rule of
like
thumb.
the 3% of Americans.
And obviously, don't get me wrong, I'm
No.
overstating this to make a joke, right? So there are many, many people who like wear masks, blah, blah, blah. But like chances are high that if you see someone wearing a mask in a touristy area, definitely an airport, they're probably from the States, which is like, I'm passing no value judgment. I don't know what to do with that. But like the Europeans are kind of like, eh, like I forget if I went over this, but when Kim and I went to Vienna, we were on what you would call a tram, the tram in Vienna, and we weren't wearing a mask. And someone started talking to us about how it would be better if we were wearing a mask, and they live there, and like so forth and so on. And they were an American, and it was like none of the Vietnamese like said anything to us. It was like this American person who was like talking to us, and it's just like, oh well, cool. We're getting off at
Yeah.
the next
So, I mean,
stop.
it's probably like a lot of places, like every local community, because we speak of the United States and Europe, like it's all just one thing, but I'm sure like every community kind of has its own norms. So, okay. Well, I mean, good or bad, it sounds like it's pretty
Yeah.
normal. Now, what about
Again,
what?
I have no idea if that's good or bad. I'm just reporting. That's what's
No, hey,
going
that's
on
what
there.
we want. We want live on the ground.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about conferences, it's always, two things people always want to know is like customers to vendor ratio. And then my second one that I call it the blue blazer to black t-shirt ratio. So it's this sort of like, maybe give us who, like the play-by-play, who is actually attending this thing?
I think there is there's a high black t-shirt ratio. Like many people wearing the t-shirts, not the blue blazers. In fact, like if there were people dressed up and had like combed their hair, I was like, they must be my coworkers. So I think yeah, I mean there's a lot of practitioners here, like actual just like VI admins, whatever you want to call them. So that was nice. The kind of people who are walking
ESXi.
around, yeah, with like a backpack and a t-shirt, and they're kind of like looking around, trying to like figure out what's going on. But yeah, it was mostly them.
And
Good.
then what would you say it's mostly like, is it mostly like a corporate kind of selling environment? There's a lot of community focus. Like, is it like a split? Like because now at a vendor run, that's something like VMware, like, I would like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I would expect it to be kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of a heavy sales presence, but do I have that wrong?
I think, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell because I didn't actually go to a lot of talks, because this is one of those conferences where you have to pre-register for a talk. And so like, I mean,
it takes effort, it takes planning.
I was gonna say, you two should guess what style I am, but I know it wouldn't take any long to guess. Like I basically 5 minutes before the talk, I'm walking around trying to find one, and there's these little signs that are like room full, right? So like if you have to pre-register for a talk, that means I'm not gonna see any talks, essentially. But yeah, I mean, there's like hands-on workshops and like all these things. I mean, I think it is it's very much like a VMware conference, right? But it's not like, it's not as like, I think the thing is like that the VMware community is so big that it doesn't come off as like just a pure like commercial vendor thing, right? Like it's kind of like if you went to like, I don't know, like I've never been to a reInvent, but I assume you go to a reInvent and it's like, yeah, I don't know if this is like totally like commercial vendor driven, because it's everyone is here, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yet
it's
it's like, yes,
nobody
but
has to
you're
sell
at the
AWS at
AWS
reInvent.
conference. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, I think to your point, like I think where that often is like you see like a really sales heavy show where the user base isn't built up, right? And so obviously both AWS and VMware are in the case of like, no, like it's been, there are billions of dollars has been spent, and like, I don't know, tens of thousands, millions of workloads are in these things. So there's going to be a group of people like, no, I need to know what's in the latest version of this, because like we already own it. And
Totally.
I need to go back and decide if we're upgrading. And, so it's a very much like a mature, so you have like a mature user base. So that's kind of what I would expect. Now, for all of us,
so another way of putting it is I was walking around as I was doing, trying to find a talk, and there was a hallway. You know how it is at these conferences. They have those like big walls that go like way up to the ceiling. So it's like this kind of weird, gigantic hallway that giants would walk in. And there were all these people like clustered at the end of the hallway waiting to get like maybe, let's say 50 people waiting to get into a room. And so I was like, oh, what's going on down there? And so I walked down there and I looked at the talk that was going to be there, and it reminded me of Java 1, because the talk was called um, vSAN, tactical configuration options. And I don't really know what a vSAN is or an SD-WAN, but I was like, I know why everyone wants to go to that, because it reminded me that like at Java 1, there was always like one talk that was basically like JVM optimization. And it was
Right.
like the talk that was all like, so anytime that you type hyphen hyphen capital X, we're going to talk for 50 minutes about that, what follows after the X. And that was always like the times that I went to Java 1, that was the most attended talk ever, right? Just like people
Wow.
who just wanted to know, like, yeah, what the fuck do I type?
That
Right?
yeah,
Like,
that's like the hardcore practitioner talk. They're like, this made the whole
exactly.
trip worthwhile.
Yeah, and like, I mean, obviously I'm overstating it, but I feel like half the conference is waiting to get into that talk, right? Like they just wanted to see how to like what capital X commands to pass into their JVMs to make it run more
I
efficiently.
like it. I like it. Now, what about, this is gonna be my new conference go-to question. So this, it's gonna be impossible, Kate. So I'm gonna ask you first. It's like, for all of us that didn't watch the keynote or we're not actually at the
Mm,
show, can you just like, because I do think a lot of times these shows come down to like here's the one overarching thing the company, the keynoter, the industry is trying to get across. Like, so like what if you were just to summarize that in, I don't know, a short summary, like what's the one takeaway that your VMware executives
uh-huh.
will want us all to know?
Well, Brandon, I have been to VMware media training. So
Okay.
Not taking the
Oh, okay.
cheese.
Hold on. Get the hands out. Yeah. Was the hands out looking at me? And then, make eye
uh-huh,
contact. And then, all right, now, okay, now line it up. Now knock it down. Give me the pitch.
No, I think it's like I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff, but the way that I would explain it is I don't know. Let me run these two words by you too. Have you heard of the idea of heterogeneous IT? Like
Yes.
it's
Can confirm.
basically
Yes.
like I was talking with one of my old analyst friends, John Collins, over there at GigaOM. He's been there for a while. He's a great guy. If you ever run into him, fantastic. And I was telling him that, like, I was asking him, like, he's in the analyst part here, and I was asking him, like, anytime I run into an analyst friend at a conference for a place that I work at, otherwise, I always ask him, like, what are they telling you in there? Like, how's it going? Like, what do you think? Because I'm always curious, obviously. And I think he would have answered your question a lot better, but he brought up like the multi-cloud thing. And what I told him is that about a year ago, like everyone in the industry was talking about like multi-cloud and this, that, and the other. And I was trying to figure out what I thought that meant. And then I realized like, I worked at BMC Software, and we used to call that heterogeneous IT. And that's pretty much what it is. It's just like, or as I said to John, like, I don't know, computers, right? It's just like you got computers, they run stuff, and like you always need to find the logs. And that's kind of it. Like
Mhm.
it's just like, let's find the logs. Where are they? Right. And so you always need that. I don't think anyone says systems management anymore, but I don't know. You need that layer, and that's the deal. And there's a bunch of other shit on top of it as well. But
Well,
I
I would
mean,
have said, I
ultimately,
was interesting because I was sort of kind of writing down my answer, like what I think I would have said, and it sounds pretty similar. It's just I don't know, maybe it just comes more simple. It's sort of like I would have said something like hybrid IT and Tanzu, right? Sort of like VMware
sure,
sees the
sure, sure,
future is going to continue to run wherever you want to run
totally,
on premise and not in. Of course, we're committed to our previous technologies, all the VMware things we know and love, and we're committed to the future, and that's Tanzu. And then,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then it's just like literally that's the keynote. And then it's like, okay, if you want to know what all this stuff really does, like go to the sessions, go to the
Right, right, right. No,
the
no,
SAN session
and
for
that
the
is,
storage people, go to the Tanzu
yeah,
session
yeah.
for the Kubernetes people, and that's it, right? So
Yeah, and I didn't actually observe the let's see, let's say the late 2000s when virtualization was on the rise, but I imagine there was a similar conversation there of you've got to move from like physical infrastructure to virtual infrastructure. And by the way, someone's actually going to want to like run some stuff on top of that, like the application part, right? So yeah, I mean, of course, there's like application talk, but like with the VMware Explore crowd, most people are operations people, so you allude to and talk about the application layer, right? But like it's a different crowd if you want to talk about more developer centric stuff and applications and stuff. But it's definitely laced in there. But like I think ultimately, like it's like the message that all companies like VMware have. It's just like, yeah, you have computers everywhere doing all the things,
We can help you
and
manage it.
you would like to manage it. And like it would be super cool if also your developers could write good software, which we can talk about with you as well. But for the people in the room here, you got to make sure that like all the little like lights are green. That's kind of what you want. And some are going to
Right.
be yellow, some are going to be green, and that's fine. And once more green than yellow, maybe you could go talk to the developers and help them out and like, figure out what's going on there.
I like it. All right. Well, let's get to the fun stuff then. All right. What about give me a sense of the show floor? And more importantly, did you identify any best swag of the show?
So the best swag was not swag. However, so I was hanging out with my old friend Phil Fritz at IBM over there in Austin, and we tested out a rumor that I heard. So I had breakfast with some British colleagues or English. I never know if you're supposed to say British or English. No one needs to send me an email. It's fine. I'll survive. But
Just say English.
I heard from one of my English colleagues that Lenovo had a beer tap. And so when I met up with Phil, I was like, let's go find that Lenovo booth.
Let's talk about some laptops.
And so, we peripateticked over there, and then we found that indeed the Lenovo people had a beer tap, and
Really?
they, of course, they scanned our badge, totally fine, and they gave us what I would call a dimmy European beer. So like they gave us like smaller than small.
It's business hours, right?
It was totally fine, right? But
Yeah.
like we got a free beer, and I think we could have gone back and gotten more, but that was the best swag.
You know the best. I mean, during the booth happy hour thing, of course, they all had alcohol, but a couple of the booths at KubeCon had nitro cold brew coffee.
Oh yeah, that's
And
true.
I got my badge scanned multiple times for that because I was like, this is so much better than the conference coffee.
Yeah.
Find that. That's the good stuff.
They had that at DevOps Days Dallas. There was like a little stand where they had some local vendor come in for the nitro coffee, and man, it was good.
I was all about that.
All right, what about best? Matt chimed in with a good one last time. He went running, as people could see very early in the morning if you looked at the show pictures from last week. But Cote, was there a best? I was calling this best party, but now I'm just gonna call it best activity. Was there like a fun run, a music performer? I don't know, something unusual. They
do have the because of my loyalty to our listeners, I am missing the big show that they have here, and they have whatever band it was that has that in song in the Breakfast Club. I don't know what they're called, but the Don't Forget About Me people, I don't know, whoever they are, and I'm sure it's fantastic. But so this let me bring up. I think to answer the question that I can answer, let's go to my Renaissance theory, right? So the most interesting thing aside from the conference is that I have now finalized my theory of the Renaissance, that what makes a Renaissance hotel is that there's an atrium. Like I think any Renaissance hotel you go to, like it's built around an atrium, because I'm at the one that is so we're actually not like in the center of Barcelona. We're I don't know, it's the Finca area. And so there's a Renaissance here, but what they have is, so if you can imagine a letter H, but you cut off those two legs on top, right? So it's just like, like the bottom of the letter H. And so the rooms are in the legs of the H, and in the middle, it's an atrium, but there are no walls on the tall building. So it's just like, it's like these stairs that go up and down, and they've got like every level is like has a bunch of like plants. So it's kind of like you've got this like hanging jungle or hanging garden in between them, and you've got this very interesting atrium effect. So I think that is I wouldn't call it the most interesting activity, but it is a fun activity in my ongoing trying to figure out what the fuck is up with Renaissance hotels. I think I've figured it out. Even here,
Swans.
They had to have an atrium.
I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. All right, we'll end on this then. This is the final one. Sort of like, what was the best breakout hallway topic? I'm sure everyone compared their frequent flyer miles. Like, are you on gold? How'd you get in? Did you come in? Sure, you had that, but was there a new and more interesting, or just a hallway topic vibe everyone was discussing, whether it's related to the conference or related to something else?
Well, so the thing I was discussing with people that I'm interested in the most, or that I like the most, was so and I was I guess you could say subtweeting about this earlier or during the week, is we're always about how, like, the operations people should, like, talk to the developers and help them out. But I was realizing, like, what we should start doing is tell the developers to, like, maybe you should, like, be nice to the operations people and, like, go talk to them. Because, like, like, because operations people, rightly so, will be like, I don't know. I don't know how to talk to an angel. They're just so holy and angelic and pure. And here I am down here in my Morlock zone. And every time I talk with them, I feel like I've gotten smoten by, like, their holiness. Right. And so, like, what I've been thinking a lot about recently is, like, I think maybe these developers need to, like, calm the fuck down and maybe go talk to the operations and infrastructure people, and just like I am, and be like, so, I don't know how to do DNS. Could you do that for me? That would be great. Like, how could you help me out with that? And probably that's the next step we need to move to, is, like, never mind, like, getting the operations people to be more friendly. Like, now I think it's the application developers who need to, like, it's their turn to kind of, like, pick up the baton and try to make things better.
I like that. I almost feel like that's some sort of like Sadie Hawkins or whatever. Like, someone should declare at the conference, okay, at this conference, if you're an application developer, you are responsible for initiating the conversations. And then in the next
Right.
one, you could flip it, be like, all right, operations people, it is now your turn, right? So it would just be some type of
Yeah.
forced team activities, just making each group, take the lead on interacting with the other group.
Right.
That would be
I
good.
feel like maybe no one has taken the collective application developer and said, like, hey, can you come over here? And, you give them, of course, you're going to have to give them, like, some kombucha or whatever,
No,
and be like,
everyone
hey,
go to the Lenovo booth.
right, like, let's have a beer, let's have a kombucha, like, that organic hamon is fantastic. You sit them down, you talk with them, and then you want to be like, so we brought you here because you're the problem. And, like, we've all been sort of like, we've all been working for 20 or 30 years to, like, work on things and make it better and help you out. We don't use INI files anymore. Like, we moved beyond that. We got PowerShell. We've got YAML and Kubernetes. And now we kind of feel like it's your turn, right? Like, you need to work on how you integrate with the rest of us and kind of make things work out. And can you hand me your angel wings? Because we'll give those back to you once you're done with the program. And then maybe we can all evolve as sort of like an IT industry.
All right. Well, I like it. It sounds like VMware Explore EU was a big success. And Cote, I'm sure you'll be recapping it on like one of the 17 million social platforms you have it. So we'll promote those at the end. I'm sure that'll be good to take out. Now, I did want to say, or did want to take a look at this OpenCloud 2022 deck. So, a venture capitalist hiring MBA banking interns to create a long PowerPoints. That's my wheelhouse. I'm always up for an event. I mean,
You're
I
always so
will make
sure it's the
fun.
interns. They
I
can
will
do their
make
own
fun
work.
of all the PowerPointing, and then I see it. I'm like, this is some good stuff. This is some good PowerPoint. So the people at Battery Ventures, they put out this, I guess they call it the OpenCloud 2022 report. I think we probably did cover the one last year and years before, but it doesn't matter. I like it. We're back again. So the slides that I want to draw our attention to, because it is like, I don't know, it's like 40 slides. So we can't go through them all in detail. But I thought slide 12, I'm just going to say, like, this isn't necessarily anything new, but I just love the way they presented this. This is why you go to Harvard and Princeton to learn how to format and make everything look this way. They have a very beautiful slide showing you essentially the annualized cloud revenue for Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, and then give you an implied multiple. They give you, it's just perfect. I'm like, this should just be a website. They should just create this. And I want to see this like every 90 days. I want this to be published and sent to me, and I'm sure they'll be able to do it. But Not a lot to say there. I think the only thing, well, I guess the parts that maybe are interesting that jump out is the implied valuation. So they have all attempted to essentially, if you were just to value that business, we'll start with AWS on its own, what do they think it will be worth, right? So for AWS, they value it at 632 billion, so it's quite significant. For Azure, it's 414 billion. And for Google Cloud, it's 200 billion. So you can kind of, it's like, putting aside that like all valuations are wrong to some degree, it's like they've done the work, they figured it out. And I think it's an interesting way to kind of, what percent does that equate to? So the one that jumps out is AWS. So if we were to say, what percent of the value does that make up of all of Amazon? That would be 48%. Azure, what percent does it make up of Microsoft's evaluations? 23%. And then for Google, or Alphabet to be more correct, that would be 16% of the value. So, and that was cool. I just think it's interesting for them to put it on there. And of course, everyone can debate this at length, like if it's actually accurate or not. But the fact that someone did the homework and at least kind of gave us, their attempt at it, I really like it. I don't know, Cote, any immediate thoughts on those numbers?
So I just have a few questions. So what does implied cloud valuation mean?
So basically they are taking the revenue of what that division is, and they're saying that it's essentially market cap. It's like, think of it that way. It's sort of like, this would be the market cap of this company if it were standalone, and then you can just do the math. You can say, okay, and that's what that percentage is. It's like, okay, if 48% of Amazon's value is represented by AWS today, right?
Yes.
Now, of course, and we would say the margin, and so the margin, that's the last number they give you, is for AWS is 29%. So you can always debate this stuff, but I like the fact they laid it all out.
I see.
And they're probably using what most people consider pretty traditional valuation metrics, and like everyone could argue about the model, but I like it. I just like the fact that they have it all written out. This is like, it's well done. Good job, Battery Ventures people. I really enjoyed that slide.
So I enjoyed looking through these slides, and it's funny you should pick this slide. This is the slide that I came to, and I was like, whoa, I'm lost. Like I was looking through it, and I finally came here, and I was thinking like, I need to spend a lot more time looking at this one, but you've explained it. So they're trying to say that if these three companies were independent companies, this is how they would be valued and how you would think about them. And then also like the percentage of valuation they contribute back to their big company. So there's another row that's called cloud contribution to enterprise value, and for Amazon in Q2 22, and I'm going to assume these are calendar year and not fiscal year, that it's 48%.
Yeah.
Does that mean that's 48? Yeah, so they're providing 48% of the value
market cap to say like,
Amazon?
Of the market cap
to Amazon, the parent company.
Well, that's pretty.
In the way they get there, and this is the part like we can all like kind of debate, is that because they show their work, which is nice. They call it illustrative multiple, right? So they pick out a multiple, and they're saying it's 8 times. So they're just saying like $1 of revenue, times 8 it's basically worth 8 times, if inside the market cap. And it's like, should that multiple be higher? Or should that market multiple be lower? But you can argue it, but you can kind of just see the math. So you can say, okay, they're just, and they use the same. The thing I like here too is they use the same number across. Now, if we were, maybe we worked at Google, we'd be like, hey, we're not making as much. Our multiple should be 12 or whatever, right? Maybe we'd come up with some argument, or in the case of Azure. So, and that's what I think. That's why I like the slide, is it's just like levels it out. It puts everyone on the same playing field. Like if I did it, and then you can kind of just start to argue, about it from year to year. But I really like it. I would want to go one step further. I'd be like, just make Battery Ventures, just make this a website. Just literally, you can just like publish this slide. And I know they're right. That's what the
and so now that you explain it, this is a nice slide. Slide 12 for people following along. I like it because it kind of lays it out. You have the numbers there. Now, let me pull an Andrew Schaefer here and completely like upend the sort of like perspective. So to zoom out. So I was looking through all these slides, and as I was looking through them, I was like, each individual slide is fascinating. And so I'm paging through it. And at some point, like one of the things I've learned to do when you look through this kind of stuff is to say, who is this for? Like, so if who is going to sit down and read, how many slides are here?
45.
Hold on. I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling. Yes, 44 slides. Let's see. You've got the cover slide and the battery team slide. So that's 44. Let's throw out 2 slides. And then let's throw in like 2 more slides for just like, I don't know, cool pictures. And say we have 40 slides of like actual content, right? Oh, there's even more because each section has its own slide. So let's call it 35 slides. And like, so plus a disclaimer slide, we'll go to 30, right? And so like, there's a lot of charts in here. And so like I would be genuinely fascinated to see like, so you go into somewhere and you bring this slide deck, and let's say no one has any questions for the hour meeting that you have. And so you're walking through this slide deck. And then you get to the you finally get to slide 44, we have the picture of the team and they all look great. Love the team there. And so like, what is the full story you have told? And then like, what is going on here? Because this is like,
all right, let me
there's
answer.
a
I'm going to
lot
try
of
to
stuff
take this
going on
on.
here.
I feel like I can answer it. I'm going to give you multiple answers. Like, okay,
Uh-huh.
first of all, who is sitting in the audience? And I think there's a couple different people. One, it's if you're going after, essentially an LP, a limited partner, they want to come, like you or Battery Ventures, and you want to go convince people to give you money to go invest, right? They may say to you like, well, what are you going to invest it in? And you say, well, we're really looking at investing heavily in the cloud market, right? And that person may say, well, like, I don't really know that much about it. Like, what's going on? Who's making money? What's the lay of the land? And what are back to the thing, if I gave you money, what are some expected returns I could see back, right? Because I'm running a large endowment, probably for like a private university, and you're asking me for $100 million commitment. And so you may take me through this and say, because I do this all day long, I'm used to looking at this. People come in, they tell me they want to invest. I want to see stuff like, what's it worth today? What are the multiples? What are the implied growth rates? And what is the total addressable market, right? And that's essentially what these 40 slides are giving you. And then they're giving you that coupled with a little bit of flavor of like, here are the big companies that are established. Here are the small companies that are up and coming. And here are the new markets that haven't yet been established or are being established that we're going to go invest in. And after seeing all of this, you would be like, thank you so much. You now educated me on the cloud market. I'm going to give you $100 million. And in 3 years, send me a memo and let me know how that money's doing so I can like update my hedge fund or my endowment. So I think that would be one person. And the second one I'd say would be founders, right? Like people coming in that are pitching them ideas like, hey, I want to start the next open source cloud technologies. I think they would look at this and say, okay, where do you fit inside of this, right? And of course, the entrepreneur may be like, hey, it's totally brand new. Like this is a new $1 trillion market. Or they may kind of like, kind of figure out like, well, we play in this space. And then you probably have some discussion more than a presentation around, well, you're valuing this particular area of the market like this, but we really think it's like this. And I would come in with some data, some charts like this. So I'd get my MBA people right together and be like, yeah, look at my PowerPoint. And then they would look at your PowerPoint. And then we kind of hash it out. We'd be like, well, we see an opportunity to work together. We'd be like, no, we don't. Like your charts are much more optimistic than our charts, or vice versa. So I think that, and then of course, just like people like us, like industry analysts and I guess podcasters and, people that are just sort of trying to like make sense of the entire market. I think that would be the third group of people.
All right. So I got a lot of yes and to add to this. And I think I agree completely with everything you said. So first of all, you're making me think that, okay. So for context, back when I did M&A, I had hard drives full of slides like these. Right. They were like gold for the job that I did. And they were coming all the time, hot and heavy. And so like, they're almost like as you were describing it, a slide deck like this is the equivalent of like iBanker butt sniffing that dogs would do. Right. Like it's almost like this is my investment bank.
I would say, let's say it's slightly different. It's their sales deck, right? So you were on the buy side then, right? They were on the sell side. So they want to walk in and they're just pitching you services. Look, Cote,
totally.
You want some of this cloud market, get in here, right?
But I mean it a little more like and this gets to my second point is like, so if you read through this, right? Like if you read through it as as a dog might, as a connoisseur of smelling another dog's butt, you're sort of like, all right, I know what's going on here. Like, I mean, I don't know. You all have dogs. And kind of like you have to walk the fucking dog all the goddamn time because the other people who profess that they love it and they like the dog and they don't want to get rid of it, I don't know why they're not walking it. I'm walking it for some goddamn reason. And so like you're observing the dogs, and like, you know, when a dog meets another dog and they don't immediately want to like kill it or whatever, they're sort of like, this is my primary interface to figure out what's going on here. I'd like to like, it's kind of like, you know, they smell each other. And so like when you get a slide deck like this, you look at it and you're like, I kind of see what's going on here. Maybe I'd like to hang out with these people. To your point, Brandon, like I get their deal, right? So you've got that going on. It's almost like a deck like this for a certain amount of people is like a brand representation. Like this is the equivalent of like, we got to get that grandson of Darth Vader guy to like do a cologne ad for us. And so this is like the way you represent your brand. And now, the second thing is like, you're making me think that like the other person, the other audience for a deck like this, because I used to get this, is it's basically like the people I would used to be like the junior staff, like the people who have to go do all the work. And then applying like a lean manufacturing sort of and a lean software development mentality, it's almost like, well, why don't you just have all the junior staff talk with each other and just like figure it out? Because instead what's going to happen is you got all the executives doing their stuff and they're talking and they're doing all this stuff. And, you know, we joke about like the interns and the iBankers, and then they go to their junior staff and they're just going to like make them like, you know, as we used to say, do a bunch of rock fetching exercises, kind of like just cycle through stuff. And then they're going to send it back over to the executives on the other side of the table who are going to do the same thing. And it's kind of like, well, why don't you just get the junior staff together and have them sort it out? And then you'll be done. Like it'll save everyone a lot of time because they're the ones making the slides and lining things up. And just in the same way that in lean manufacturing, they're like, why don't you move the decisions as close to the line as possible? Like the people actually doing the work, they might have a lot of insight into like the macros they use in Excel and how they're making the charts. So maybe they should just talk with each other.
Right. And to that end, I think the presentation is kind of broken up into that, right? So the first part is sort of the overview. But then, if you will, getting the people back together, that's really about, okay, have the people get back together and they can go through the operational best practices for open cloud companies, right? And in there, like we won't go in detail, but it's just sort of like they have a bunch of standard stuff. Like here's how you do product-led growth. Here's how you do product-assisted growth. Here's how you do sales influence growth. Okay, here's how you go a cloud native demand funnel. Here's a legacy demand funnel. So they would just kind of go through, because someone's going to go through and be like, okay, are you doing all of this? What are you doing? What are you not doing? And then they have some slides in there like, okay, what are your conversion rates of your qualified leads? So this would all just be like, you know, either if you're trying to raise money from a battery, like they're going to want to know the answers to all these questions, right? Or they're going to at least tell you like, for the first board meeting, we want to see all of this, right? And so this is the details that the VP of marketing or the demand generation person will have to sit down, and the sales team, right, have to sit down and work out all of their answers to these questions.
And tell me if I'm wrong here, but like in reading through that section of it, like I feel like over the past couple of years, my theory is that whenever you see a presentation like this from VCs and it's like operational implications, all they're saying is, what is the ratio between R&D, sales, and marketing? Mm-hmm. And like that's almost like that's the slide I kept looking for, is like, so in this phase of the market, like how should I be spending money, right? Because there's kind of like, and it makes sense, like if you are an investor or what do they call them, a limited partner, right? Like the only control you have is basically like allocation of money in those three buckets. I mean, I guess you have like what do they call it, HR and finance and all those things, but SG&A, but never mind that. But like, it's basically just like, how do we allocate money to these three functions throughout the life of a startup? And that's what I kept flipping through to find out, is like, so do you want me to hire more developers or hire more salespeople? Or
well, I think what they're showing here,
like which one do I spend more money on?
I think they're giving you sort of like, here are the models for them. This is the way they're going to say it. They're going to say like, here are the models that we've seen work, right? And so we would like to know which of these models and how you're doing it. And then to answer the questions for the boardroom, when they actually do it, they'll say, now go to the KPI section, right? And says, okay, when you present, whatever model you picked, right, we're now going to then measure you against these KPIs that are listed here. So you know you're doing a good job if you could say like, I did product-led growth and I'm getting because they have the KPIs. I love this.
Oh, I like that.
Best,
I like that.
better, good, right? Which is like good, of course, means failing. Better means like
Now, hold on, Brandon.
mhm.
Which slide are you looking at here?
Well,
I
this is
want
the whole
to.
section
I
that's
got to bring it
building a
up.
lasting public company, and it's like the revenue growth levels, the revenue growth and percentages, right? So they kind of give you the answer, and this would be because like the market. So think about it, right? If we think about like consuming a deck, the marketing team, demand generation, sales teams kind of come up with all the go-to-market models. They figure out which of those things they're doing. Now the CFO or the financial professional for the company then says, okay, give me all the results, and I have to like turn our statement and create some slides to show that, yeah, we're doing all this. Like the rule of 40 measures efficiency. Like we're doing this. We're investing a certain amount of money in our to your original question, into development, and that's turning into a certain amount of dollars, and that's on par with this. And we want to be in either the green or the blue category, which is best and better. And then, of course, if we're in the good category,
I feel like green would be the best, right? You always
right? Yeah, you really want to be green, growing to blue. Of course, good, and of course, like they're selling themselves. So really, what they want to write is cross out good and write bad, and then turn it red. But they use good and orange, right? So it's just like it's all code, right? So it's like, yeah, if you're in the good, you're done. You're like you're not. You're going to have a lot of people all over you. So so there's lots of stuff in here, and I guess maybe the last slide we can talk about, and we can is just because I love. There's nothing I love more than an early innings slide, right? When someone says it's early innings of cloud, and then like wants to tell us what it is. So this is slide 13. I'll try to put these in as show art so people can kind of follow along. So in their case, though, and it says, quote, "We're in the early innings of cloud adoption," end quote. Just the most perfect, use the metaphor. I can't get enough of this. So what they have said here is, I'm going to summarize it all down. It says that the overall infrastructure market is 919 billion. And they think that today in 2022, cloud spend represents about 25% of it. So this is new. Like Cote, we've been tracking this. Like 2 years ago it was 5%. This year we've heard 10%. Now this slide dares to go at 25%. And it goes.
Well, let me add what I think has happened is in the past 2 months, the growth rate is amazing. The shit has doubled.
That's not what the stock market says.
Something has happened in the last 2 hours. Now, of course, they would like the defensible part is like I said, well, we're only looking at infrastructure spend, right? Because like really when you're like AWS Azure, like you just like you leave it undefined, like what you're talking about. You're like growth is uncapped, but you're not even sure what you just find. So they, to their credit, they put a number on. They said 919. So, but I think we can just make it $1 trillion. I'm going to round up to $1 trillion. Be like, okay, it's $1 trillion. We think we're at 250 billion, and we're at 25% of the way there to getting everything. And they've got a bunch of charts on here that kind of like show you where the spend is. That is interesting. But I just think it is interesting. It's like, okay, Battery Ventures. They're out there 25%. That's the highest I've seen it. The highest statistic someone has put out there. And I do think, even though it says just IT infrastructure, I still think it's sort of it feels more real to me than the other stuff. Maybe because they just have lots of fancy charts that go with it. But I'm like, okay, I feel like it feels closer to reality than like the unbounded market caps that I'm sure we're going to hear about at AWS reInvent that's coming up.
Yeah. I think in summary, fantastic deck. Like the team that worked on this this is I think someone said the word art. This is a piece of art. Right?
I think it's fantastic. I went through, I did like the fonts, everything's really consistent. I could only really find one place where I thought maybe they didn't like do some of the nice a line across a horizontal line. But that's okay. We'll forgive it. I can only find one error in it.
And the best thing is like, this is the template. So in 9 months they start working on the refresh and it's easy to do, So just keep iterating over perfection.
Oh my! Well, you're giving me like you're giving me memories, Matt Ray. Like the team that worked on this, I guarantee you, they spent like 2 to 4 hours on that conversation. They were like, "Dude, and like, what if we make a template of this?"
But that's the thing. Next year, it's new
save the spreadsheet, and all we have to do is like we've just got to upload the CSV to the Excel spreadsheet. And then you like push the button and boom, new slides if it's consistent. And
Well, I'll say
Good
this,
luck on
right
that.
there.
we probably spent too much time on it, but there at the end there are 4 people listed, and they seem to be listed in order of hierarchy. And the person that's sort of published, or the named author, I guess, is the general partner. But they have 2 people on here, Jason and Patrick, that I did look at their LinkedIn's, and also based on the picture, they look like they're not new to the industry. They're relatively young, still coming up, I think, as doing it. And I have thought to myself, like, I really want to interview them. I actually don't want to enter, like, because I want to hear the details of, like, slide by slide, like what went into this, who was doing what, how long did it take, and how many reviews did they have to do with their general partner to get this thing done. Because it's like, I bet you this took quite a long time. So if anyone knows Jason or Patrick, and if you think they would want to come on the show, I'll have them on, and we will talk at length. Probably more length than anyone wants, but we can go through it in real detail, Coach, to your point.
That would
we'll
be great.
And we'll get all the details. Like, why did they do? Maybe I missed out some people that
No,
can tell me, well,
you know what we'll
these
do?
slides is like, why did we make these slides? Well, you didn't know about this other group that we have to talk to. And I'm like, oh, tell me more.
I have been on the wrong side of the table many times for the following phrase. We'll go through it slide by slide. I mean, I think this is like here in Barcelona, you know what this is in our domain of like iBanker investment decks. This is like the Sagrada Familia of like iBanker decks, except these motherfuckers finished it. Like they actually built it out and it's done. Right. So it's good stuff. I like it.
All right. Well, that's enough about that deck. Well, Coach A, do we have any conferences that you're not currently at that you want to promote going forward?
Well, that is a good question. So, you know, I was telling people personally, I need to finally sit down and submit to a bunch of submit talks to a bunch of conferences, and I guess, you know, submit to them that I will be going to. But there are several conferences coming up. There's the All Day DevOps Conference, which is very soon now, tomorrow, if you're listening to this live, which will be fun. And the that conference, which is going to be in Round Rock, Texas, you can register for that. You know, you were there, Brandon. It seemed like a great conference. You can get. It's going to be January 15th and 18th of 2023. That's next year, right?
Correct.
Did I get that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when you register for it, which you totally should, you can use the code SDT for 5% off, which will buy you a lot of tacos. The savings that you had there. And then Cloud Native Security Con is coming up in Seattle, February 1st to 2nd. And I don't actually know. We haven't talked with our friends over at the CNCF, but I think there's KubeCon Europe is going to be in Amsterdam in like March or one of the M months. And so like I need to figure that out because obviously it's great to be able to bike to a conference.
And the CFP is going on right now. So you got, I think, another week or two. So
yeah. I have a reminder somewhere that hopefully I'll look at. That's the key with reminders. I don't know if you know this, Matt Ray, but a reminder is only good if you look at it.
That would explain this style of the stack of Post-it notes that I have.
Which I almost think like I think we've just cracked the problem with all systems about remembering things to do. It's like if I could remember that I was supposed to do this, I would have done it. And now what you're telling me is that I need to remember to look at my remembering to do something.
I think that's like step one of getting things done is the review step.
Yes. Yeah. Anyways, so there's several conferences coming up. Y'all should check those out. They would be fun. Do we have any bureaucracy this week, Brandon?
Just a little bit. I just want to let everyone know 2 things. One, if you would like a sticker, email me your postal address. That's stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com. I will be happy to email you stickers anywhere in the world. I had a listener write in this week. They were originally in a different country. I mailed it off to them, but it didn't get there. It was international, but they moved to the United States. So they gave me the new address, and I'm confident this time I addressed it correctly, and the postage was less. So that's fine. So sometimes people, like, if they don't get there, you can just email me because I'm sure I've made many errors. Or if you relocate, or if you get a new laptop, that's another thing people do. You should definitely do that. And also, if you would like to see more of us talking about other nonsense, you should watch the live YouTube recording of any of the episodes. So you can just go to our YouTube channel and you can see kind of all the outtakes, all the things that happen behind the scenes. It's riveting. It's even better than you would have ever imagined. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and check that out to see more of us.
I feel like if there are any people out there who work on a address normalization framework, Brandon, you would be one of the top 3 users to talk to and interview in their product
True.
management.
I've learned a lot about international mail. That is for sure. That's definitely true.
Absolutely. Well, with that, Matt Ray, what do you have to recommend this episode?
My recommendation this week is good customer support. It's nice when you get it, so I like to call it out. So I've got a desktop PC under my desk that the power
Of course
button
you do.
broke. Yeah, well, that's
Do
what
you
goes.
only have one, Matt Ray?
I only have one. I've got, up in the closet, I've got, the 9 or 10 little ARM devices, but
Good.
the power button broke. And I looked online, and it turned out, it was a common complaint as the power button on this thing breaks. It was out of warranty, but I fired them an email. They shipped it from Sweden, a replacement part, like out of warranty, no questions asked. So
Nice.
thanks, Fractal Design. And then thanks to COVID, I missed the 20K trail run I was training for. And I emailed the organizers. I was like, "Hey, I got COVID. Your cancellation thing says no refunds. Can I have my can I have it just move to next year and I'll try again?" And they're like, "Sure." Like, just it doesn't hurt to ask, but it's nice when you get something positive.
You're making me think, like, I have in my mind, I have this T-shirt company that I've never started ever since Cormac was born back in 2010. And there's a new one that you're making me think of that would say, it never hurts to ask, just don't ask me. I think it's maybe like a design that would be popular. Huh. All right. How about yourself, Brandon? What do you have to recommend?
I'm going to recommend the second season of The Vow, which was an HBO documentary about the Nexum. I guess I'm going to call it a cult. You can call it whatever. But basically, the first season was sort of like all about kind of taking down this cult. And then season 2 is, not surprising, a bunch of people are arrested and they're being tried and things like that. And most of it's already known. So you can kind of search out what's happened. But I think it's been fascinating. And I guess I'm always sort of fascinated by these interviews of the people that sort of like got involved with it. And now they're sort of like stepping back from it. And they're sort of like, kind of people just asking all the questions like what happened? Like, why did you get involved in this? How did you, what were you thinking? Kind of like, I guess that's what it is. So it's interesting to see the interviews. I don't know. I'm always fascinated by these kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's just the human mind, right? The human mind can kind of convince you of lots of things. And I was thinking, I'll just touch on it briefly today was, because you watch this and you're like, wow, this is pretty crazy. I'm not so sure, I wonder, you kind of like, I always have the question, like, how do people get into it? And that's why I like hearing about it. But then I was thinking about today, FTX, we didn't talk about it today on the show, but like FTX is the big cryptocurrency thing that's owned by SBF, Sam, and so overnight, this thing went from $32 billion to basically worthless when somebody kind of threatened to basically, sell their token. And I was thinking to myself, like, well, I guess that's kind of the same example. Like, it's just sort of like everyone believed it was worth 32 billion last night. And then today they all changed their mind and it's like worth nothing. So it's sort of like the human mind. It can really play tricks on you. So check out The Vow if you want to see more about Nexium.
Yeah, it seems like now I'm no whoever that Russell Crowe guy was who like was in Beautiful Minds or whatever, but like I don't know, you watch flocks of birds
Steve
and
Nash.
they just like all of a sudden they fly one direction and you're like, I don't know, I guess they're fucking crazy. Like just one bird decided it looked cool over there and now they're all going that way. Which is seems like a type of mania. Wasn't that like if I remember from the movie, he figured out like why birds did something? I don't know. I got to call up Schaefer and have him explain that to me. But so my recommendation this week is, as people know, I have canceled the family Spotify subscription because we already have Apple Music. And I just want to say, now I know, Brandon, you're a convert. It turns out Apple Music and Spotify, pretty much the same thing. I think Spotify is, I would almost say at this point, I mean, I guess, obviously, though, Spotify is like Windows and Apple Music is like Apple. So Spotify has like all these options. It's very hierarchical. Like it's almost like you've opened up, what do they call those like GUIs where you kind of like walk down the tree of a directory structure? There was a name for that kind of thing. Like you would have it in DOS. Do you remember that guy Alex at
Tree.
BMC? Like he had some app that he would use in DOS that was like the mega file manager thing or whatever. So like Spotify is like the mega file manager like thing that you use, whereas Apple Music is kind of like the OS thing where it's just sort of like in a very annoying way. It's like God damn it. I know there's a hierarchy here that I would like to walk, but you just will not show it to me. Give me a hierarchy. Anyways, I've been using Apple Music. So I
And
was
it's
listening
fine.
to, yeah, and it's great. But I was listening to on the, I think maybe it's the first full album from Outkast, the Atlian's album. And there's a song on
Yeah.
there that I like a lot called Wheels of Steel. And I've listened to it so many times over the past 15 years, but I listened to it finally in Apple Music. And I don't know what version they have there, but it's got like a whole bunch of different stuff in the background. So if you know that song really well, you'll listen to it and you're just like, oh, I just heard someone breathe, or I just heard like someone say this that I've never heard before. It's kind of like, if you listen to like some sort of classical music recording, like, when the violinist is going to like take a breath, like you hear all that stuff. And like, I don't know, it comes out a lot more than any version that I've
Do you think
listened to.
like maybe Spotify? I don't know. It seems like Spotify seems to have more of the remixes and extended versions. And is Apple like the more basic stuff, or am I just projecting?
I have no idea, but whatever it is, like it's like I mean I almost want I'm not an audiophile, but I almost want to say that it's like higher quality, so it has more stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But like
I'm looking
it
forward to
sounds
getting rid
different.
of Spotify now. So you got me thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know. Listen, I'm
Anyways.
a devout Apple Music, but I don't know. We have some music people in the chat. Maybe they'll give us advice. But I don't know. I think like if real serious music fans always tend to explain to me why Spotify is better, and I agree with them and keep using Apple Music. So I don't know. Take that for what it's like. Take that for what it's worth.
I got a Spotify family plan for the family, not for me. So I'm like, if I could just move them to Apple, because I'm already paying for storage now. Defaults lifestyle got me over the
Matt
barrel.
Ray, this is what I'm saying. You can pay Apple like $30 a month and have all of that taken care of, and then you can cancel your
That's a
Spotify
lot.
family thing. But your Spotify like family thing is like $18-20 a month,
Is
right?
it? Jeez, I got to cancel that. It's expensive.
So and you got to be like, you know what? They have music over here that we already have, and like,
Well, Amazon's got some music now too, right?
I mean, but come on, that's like that's like buying your steaks at Walmart. Like, don't do that.
Oh.
I don't know. Like it feels like you should consume your music from some other place, or maybe it's fine. Actually, I have no idea. Could be perfectly great in your Prime membership there, but you've got the storage.
Walmart steaks are fine.
Yeah.
I don't eat meat. What do I care?
You know what? They're going to be hella better than whatever I buy in the Netherlands. So like, I would welcome a Walmart steak. That'd be fantastic. Well, with that, speaking of Walmart steaks, if you want to ship one of those to me, send me a message, an email. You got to ship it overnight so it doesn't go bad. I'll send you my mailing address, my home address, so you can ship me a Walmart steak, which I will gladly consume. If you want to get a steak from Costco, Walmart, Target, Fresh Plus, Food Lion, anywhere, feel free to send it to me once you get my address. And after you're done with that, you'll remember that you've been listening to Software Defined Talk. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, there's all sorts of things that we talked about, and as Brandon alluded to, didn't talk about. You can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/386. And, if you're in a hurry, just press the turbo button, and you'll accelerate your 386 processor and get there much faster. If you want to take your time to press the turbo button, you can kind of like walk through the game a little bit better. It'll be easier. But you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/386 and find those show notes. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, well done. I was just looking here in the comments to see if anyone had any opinions on Spotify. Someone said what? Spotify is Franklin's. Apple Music is what is it?
Barbecue.
Barbecue, and Amazon Music is Bill Miller. I think the last one is true. Amazon Music is kind of like Bill Miller. It's kind of like that. That kind of goes to. I don't know if I'd say Spotify. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess it's Franklin in the sense of like, but I would tell you almost in a derogatory way. It's Franklin in the sense it's like just a little overrated. I mean, it's good. It's fine. It's good enough, but it's a little overrated. That's kind of how I'd feel.
Good transformation.
Well, maybe
and,
yeah.
And also too, I feel like if I want to get more unsweetened iced tea with pellet ice than I can drink, I'm going to go to Amazon. That's definitely.
They're like, how would you like your audio in bulk?
Yeah, it's kind of true. Well, it's funny how Amazon does have good stuff, but like there's something about it that like about all their products that sort of have like a very Amazon. It's almost like the cologne thing you were talking about. Like, when you're using like an Amazon app, like when I'm on the Apple TV and I have to go to the Amazon, because I like that show that you recommended. Why? Not why. Sorry, Matt.
Peripheral.
Peripheral. Yeah. But like I like it. It's good. So I'm just endorsing your recommendation. But like when you're in, but I know like I'm watching it on the Amazon app. Everything's like a little clunky. It's a little out of place. It
Yeah.
doesn't like scroll. It doesn't scrub real nice. It's just like
It's
that's how I feel about
Chromecast
Amazon
versus a
Music.
Roku. Yeah.
It's just like it does work. Like it would be like in the meeting, it checked all the requirements and it does do what it's supposed to do, but it's clunky.
I think
it's Mastodon versus Twitter.
My theory would be that like Amazon has perfectly aligned employee motivation to share price valuation, right? And so like I don't know if this is true, but maybe this fits. It's like if the way that the technical people, if a huge part of their compensation is based on share price, then they are always obsessed with like, how could we just like do the minimum amount of work to make the maximum amount of money, right? Because then that directly reflects to your comp, right? And so it's sort of like, so yeah, my desk is an old door, cool, because back home I got a fucking yacht, right? Like, I don't need to trick out my work environment because like my comp is back home.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true, but like that's the kind of incentive you would drive if you have like a heavy like equity like compensation for your employees.
No, it definitely works, but it just I guess it just comes across. There's a certain brand. It's just I guess maybe a nice way to say utilitarian, right? And maybe that's AWS is like that. So it's
practical.
Like, yeah. Well, it's also like when you get into it's like when people start complaining about like the console and the web interface for AWS, it's like, well, really just use the command line, right? That's kind of what everybody like when you're getting good at it, and like people, that's like that's where like people are, I think, that are really using it. They're in the command line, so it's like whatever, right? Yeah. There's like 250 services, like they're kind of alphabetically and they're kind of grouped. Like if you can't find it, do Control F and just it'll pop up there. Like
really
it works.
Overworked UX guy. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, listen, it was good. Well, hold on. I want to ask Brian. Brian, I assume you use Spotify. I'm just curious. Do you use something else? Does he? Maybe you use Tidal. Brian was very audiophile. I want to see what he says if he's still on here. Maybe he left. What does Brian use? No. Oh, he just got. Oh, what were you using before Spotify? XM? Were you doing XM radio still? What was the
XM radio?
I think he was using XM or like, so
Spotify.
or maybe something free. You could use Pandora.
Maybe,
he was using. There he goes. Brian was using Amazon Music. So there you have
case
it.
Study.
There you go.
Maybe contrary to what I was implying, I actually like kind of miss the Spotify interface. It's like it is as like Windows based as it is. Like it's I don't know. It's precise.
Well, that seems to be what people say. It's like Spotify, it has kind of figured out all the UI stuff. Whereas I feel like people that complain a lot about Apple Music is it's like, it would be the opposite of like, it looks really good, but then I want to do this thing and I can't do it. Right. And it's
right.
Whereas Amazon Music, you probably can do everything, but it's kind of a little bit clunky. You know what I mean? So it's like you kind of have to pick like what do you want.
You're making me think that like when I'm in Apple Music, every now and then I feel like I have that sense where I go to like a department store and I'm just like, I just need some goddamn socks. Why am I in the perfume department? Right? Like I wish I could. Where's the elevator so I can go to the section and get my socks and get out of here? Whereas like Apple Music's always like.
Well, that's the problem with the default lifestyle. Sometimes you run into like you run into like a brick wall. You go down an alley and there's no exit. You're like for this, like do not disturb. I want to just do not disturb for 2 hours, right? Because there's the setting is for 1 hour. 2 hours because this show often we often run a little bit long, like so 2 hours. So it's like no, can't do it. There's just you can do it like the only options is 1 hour. Or you can do it to like the end of the event, or you could set a rule. But like, no, I just want it to be 2 hours. Where in Amazon, there'd be like some command line utility, be like whatever, set blah blah blah, and I can set it to like any arbitrary value I want. But at Apple, they're just like nope, dead end.
Right.
1 hour this evening, end of event. No, 90 minutes not possible. Cannot be done.
That's good because like the Apple debate would be like, should it be 1 hour, 2 hours, or into the day? Whereas like your kind of like Amazon debate would be like, Should we do it in increments of 10 seconds or 60 seconds?
It would be. It would totally be like that, right? It would. And then someone would have written another command line utility that you could do it like in nanoseconds because they're like, well, it turns out we wanted this precision. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for everyone watching the stream. Enjoy all the music recommendations. Hopefully, someone maybe between now and then we can find someone using Tidal next week. If so, we'll mention that on the show. But until then, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.